Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Battle and Siege of Yorktown, but first I want to backtrack a little bit to the sort of cat and mouse chase between Cornwallis and Nathaniel Greene. So this is what really set Cornwallis up to head to Yorktown. So this had been going on for a while. Greene and Boone had split their forces and were while Boone was leading Tarleton on a cat and mouse chase through the back country. Nathaniel Greene was doing the same thing with Cornwallis and was trying to stay one step ahead of him and just draw him further and further away from his supply lines in Charleston. Luckily for Greene, Cornwallis bit. Cornwallis just constantly kept chasing this one decisive battle that would end the war altogether. However, Greene was able to stay for at least one step ahead, sometimes only by a few hundred yards ahead of Cornwallis's men. There were skirmishes along the way, but nothing that was decisive. And so Greene keeps leading him through through South Carolina and North Carolina until they finally come to the Dan River in Virginia. Now, Greene makes a crucial decision at this point. He decides he's going to split his forces himself. So he's going to take a group and lead them across the Dan River. The other are going to make their way to Yorktown, or towards Yorktown. It was a gamble, but luckily Cornwallis took the bait and followed Greene, still looking for that decisive battle, maybe not necessarily realizing that the forces had been split. However, Greene is able to get his men across the Dan River just a few hours before Cornwallis arrives, and by the time Cornwallis arrives, it's too late, and Greene's men have already disassembled the bridges and taken any crossing points out. It said that Greene's men could be heard on the other side of the river shouting in excitement that they had pulled off this trick. Cornwallis then has no choice but to follow his orders and head to Yorktown. So that now puts Cornwallis at Yorktown. Let's head over across the Atlantic Ocean to Benjamin Franklin in France. At the same time that this is going on, Franklin is trying to secure more funding and support and supplies from the French, who are getting ready to go bankrupt already from supporting this American Revolution. However, luckily for Franklin, Admiral de Grasse, the French commander of the French fleet down in the Caribbean, decides to take his own action and decides to sail up from the Caribbean during hurricane season, since all shipping is stopped during hurricane season, basically in the Caribbean. So he starts heading that way. He contacts Washington to let him know he is on the move. Washington is still in New England, still searching for that to take back New York. However, Washington is faced with this dilemma. Does he stay and try and recapture New York in a battle, in a victory that may never happen, or does he head down to the destination of de Grasse's choice to have a very decisive battle that could end the war? Washington, being the wise man that he is, takes all of his troops out of New England and starts heading down to Yorktown, the port town that de Grasse had chosen. Now, by this time, Cornwallis is already there as well. The French fleet arrive in the Channel at Yorktown before Washington and his men do, and a battle ensues for 4 days between the French fleet and the British fleet there. The French fleet win, despite both sides having extensive losses. It is declared a victory for the French fleet, and they take control of that channel, controlling what goes into Yorktown and what goes out. This means that Cornwallis's route of escape by sea is now cut off. He can't do that. It also means he can't get any supplies coming in from that area as well. Now, Washington is making his way down, and as he's making his way down, Cornwallis starts to feel the noose tighten around his neck in a way, and he's writing to Sir Henry Clinton in New York, asking him to bring reinforcements to please hurry, that the situation is dire. And Henry Clinton is basically writing back saying, yeah, I'll send them, don't worry, we'll be there in plenty of time, it's not as bad as you think. And Cornwallis, in his sort of blind trust, stays put, but he continues to write, and the longer he stays put in Yorktown, his window of opportunity is closing in around him, literally, as Washington's men arrive. Now, on October 6, 1781, is when the Siege of Yorktown begins. Washington and the French debated on how best to go about this. Washington wanted to go for a full invasion, go in guns blazing. The French said, no, you will lose far too many men this way. Let's dig in and take it little by little. And so the construction of trenches started to occur. By October 14th, the Continentals had made such progress in the siege that only 2 redoubts were left. They had taken British trenches, and so you only had redoubts 9 and 10 left. On October 14th, for a force of 400 Continental troops break through, take redoubts 9 and 10, and on October 16th, the British asked for peace and to start negotiations. And then on October 19th, 7,000 British soldiers laid down their arms in front of Washington, but there was one person missing, and that was Cornwallis. It's still debated why he didn't show up. The official record is that he had dysentery, and so he literally couldn't be there. Others speculate that he couldn't face that shame. And so, because of the defeat of the British at Yorktown, while the war continued for a couple more years, there were no other major battles within the continental United States over